My name's Benny. I'm on the founding team of CryptoKitties. I'm in charge of Asia. We've been doing this project for a year now, and CryptoKitties is a really fun blockchain game. It's the world's first blockchain game where you could breed, buy, sell digital cats, and all of these cats are on the blockchain, including the genetics of these cats that we put on the blockchain. Yeah, I've kind of lost track. I mean, we're definitely more than 1 million now. So I think that we're at 1.1 million cats that are on the blockchain. There was a huge spike in the beginning. Our website had, I think, around 1.5, 1.6 million views at one point, at the highest point. Of course, we know that is not sustainable with the network congestion. So I think that for us, it went viral in a good way because a lot of people were interested in blockchain technologies, but they never really had a chance to play with it. And a lot of people came to play CryptoKitties to learn about the blockchain. Now, what we've realized very soon after launching CryptoKitties is that the user experience of people trying to play a blockchain game was too much friction. And as time kind of progressed, a lot of people who came in earlier couldn't buy crypto or ether, and they couldn't really play the game, so they left. But I do think that we're at a sustainable level, and actually we have continued growth, slow growth, but it is continued growth. There needs to be a lot more education in the market and an improvement in the user experience. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. In fact, actually, I mean, we're still #1 on the charts in terms of ETH volume and DAUs. And we're actively growing this thing called the Kittyverse. So with CryptoKitties being a blockchain game, it's decentralized, meaning people, if you own cats, you could actually do anything you want with the cats because it's in your wallet, right? So people, like developers, have been building blockchain games on top of CryptoKitties, like kitty racing, kitty battles, kitty hats. And it's showcasing the extensibility of a game where the IP and the actual assets are owned by the users. And I think the charts that you look at right now, it only measures the smart contract calls, but we actually have users going to play like racing or battles, which doesn't really count right now as DAUs. But we are continually growing this ecosystem, so eventually we will have a version of which people will go to CryptoKitties to buy the cats, and then you could do many other things with it, interacting with the cats that you own, and that will kind of showcase the real user base of CryptoKitties. So Kittyverse kind of started off, it started by itself. In the very beginning, there was like 5 or 10 developers who were building tools for CryptoKitties. So some of these tools were measuring the market price. Some of them were trying to decode the genetics of the cats. A lot of these tools were very useful in the community, and a lot of people used it. And then eventually, some developers started to build gaming experiences on top of CryptoKitties because to be frank, I think like a lot of people request that CryptoKitties build more gaming features, and we are looking into kind of building more gaming features and make it more interactive. But what we're really interested in is kind of incentivizing or working with developers to build more interesting gaming experiences. So to date, we have about 50 developers around the world who are not our employees. We didn't hire them, but they play CryptoKitties and they're working on tools and gaming experiences. As a company, we have grants that we give to developer projects that we think are great. And we also fly them into Vancouver, Canada, where our head office is. And they get to work with our game designers and our developers to make their games even better. So Kittyverse is a very big objective for us. We actually just had a hackathon in Shenzhen about 2 weeks ago. There was about 300 developers. It was hosted by TechCrunch. So we actually did a Kittyverse hackathon where people were building more interesting experiences with CryptoKitties. And I think that next year we will have Kittyverse hackathons in Seoul and in Tokyo and London, Germany. I think that we have an API now that allows for people to build these types of experiences. So CryptoKitties, we've made a promise to the Ethereum community. CryptoKitties will forever stay on Ethereum because there's just been millions of assets that have been issued. And so it doesn't make sense to move it over to another blockchain. And one of the reasons why it's important is when we look at other blockchains, it's important to look at a couple of factors, right? We look at the brand of the other blockchain, right? Is the brand good? Is it bad? Is it bad reputation, etc.? Then we look at the community of the blockchain. Is the community very big? Is it very small? Is it developers or is it retail investors, right? I think that's a very important thing to look at. Then we look at the infrastructure or the middleware layer, right? Is this protocol building all of the middleware solutions like platform and wallet and etc.? And if a company is building all of the infrastructure, that means you as a user will have to trust the protocol plus all of the middleware solutions, right? That's very, very centralized. Or does this protocol even have any middleware solutions, right? Maybe they're just starting off or developers don't really want to build on top of their solution. Then we look at the technical aspects of the protocol. There's that famous trilemma of like security and etc. and scalability. And so we do a really deep analysis of the technicalities of the protocol. And is it a fit for us, or is it jeopardizes security, or is it super centralized? Because I think that's a big factor of when we decide to move on to a chain. And then last but not least, we look at the dApps, right? So what are some of the dApps being built on this chain, right? Is it all gambling games? Is it kind of scam projects? Are there upcoming projects that are promising? So with those 5 in mind, those are the things that we use to look at new protocols, right? And when you apply those 5 to protocols such as EOS, to us, there are quite a lot of negative out of the 5, right? And so in terms of what is good of EOS is, well, it's super fast, right? But it definitely sacrifices security for speed. So for us, what's important is that if you buy a digital asset like CryptoKitties, I want you to have this kitty for 100 years, for 1,000 years. I want you to be able to give this kitty to your kid, and maybe your kid will give it to your kid or his kid, so it'll be your grandchildren. And I think that's hugely important when we think about that concept. Sometimes it's hard for us to think super long term, but just like if you buy a really expensive watch or you buy a really nice car, you shouldn't expect that one day it will disappear, right? And there is a certain fear that if you choose a centralized network, that they could easily make it disappear, right? So I think it's really important. And have we considered other chains? Well, we have a research and development team that's led by our CTO, D.Terview, and they've done a lot of analysis of all of the other chains. As it stands right now, out of those 5 factors that I've outlined, Ethereum is the best. It's not fast right now, but community is good, infrastructure is good, developers good, dApps are good. So I would say that it's like 4.5 out of 5. And so it makes sense for us to continue working on top of Ethereum. Yeah, so we actually have an iOS app and an Android app. We have a partnership with HTC, the phone company, so that in the new year, their blockchain phone will have CryptoKitties on there. So yes, we've already built the mobile version, and a part of building the mobile version, we've actually translated the game into different languages. So it's in Japanese, it's in Chinese, it's in Spanish, it's in French, and of course English, and very soon Korean. Yeah, right now, most of the users are on the computer. The reason being is that we've been in discussions with Apple and Google and Amazon, and blockchain game as it stands is very new, and the business model of kind of how they take 30% of the in-app purchases is something that doesn't necessarily fit with blockchain games right now. So we're definitely sitting down and chatting with them and trying to figure out something that will work for both sides. But what this means for blockchain games is that we cannot be featured, we cannot be in the app stores, and we cannot be featured in it. So that's why not a lot of people know about CryptoKitties mobile. But we've definitely already built the mobile versions. For the Android versions, if you're using Samsung, you could kind of side load it onto your phone, and a lot of people in China actually use it like that, play the game like that. There are 2 categories. One category is they straight up copy everything. So the images of the cat, basically everything. And there is 1 or 2 in China, I believe, that's done that. And we have taken legal action against them. For the other blockchain games that look similar to CryptoKitties, like the marketplace, but then they have their own assets like, I don't know, dolphins or whales, etc. I don't necessarily think it's copying. I think it's just that it's a good user experience. And it's great because it means that we've set a standard of what the marketplaces could potentially look like. Now, that doesn't mean that someone could think of new ways to make it more efficient and even easier to use. But I do think that a lot of projects are using the marketplace concept for their games. I think that's great. And I don't think we have any problems with them copying that. For the other games that are basically CryptoKitties but with different animals, the question is more so for the developer or the founder of those projects, right? I don't necessarily think that it's easy to build a blockchain game, and I don't necessarily think that people they will easily buy all of these different animals. CryptoKitties is not just the kitties itself, it's the historical. It's part of history in the sense that it started this first wave of blockchain games. It opened up the conversation for consumer adoption, you know, so the kitties represent more than just the image of the cats. And I think one mistake is like, oh, let's put dogs on there. And I think that people like dogs too, but I think that the blockchain has a lot of interesting, like if you're gonna build a blockchain game, there's a lot of different angles you could take, right? If you look at the blockchain like Etherscan, you have all of this data that whenever you make a transaction, you have the wallet address, the block size, the timestamp, the gas, all of this is data, right? And I think that if you are thinking about building blockchain games, you should start from the perspective of, hey, this is a lot of data. How can I make this data playful and fun and interactive, right? What we did was, hey, you know, the genetics of these cats are like zeros and ones, right? It was really up to the artistic expression of, okay, 010001 should be pink fur. And so there is a certain creativity sense to building blockchain games, and I think that there should be more explorations of different things, different ways to surface data in a playful ways versus just like using a different animal. Now that's from the crypto side. So the crypto side, I think that you should look at the data and see if there's fun, new gaming feature, new gaming loops. Now from the gaming side, like big companies like Nexon or NeoWiz, NCSoft, etc. I mean, they've built games, so they know what games are. They make hundreds of millions of dollars. I think that the fundamentals of building games, like making people feel sad and making people feel like greedy or happy, those are things that you should apply to blockchain games as well. I don't think that blockchain games will basically, you don't need to think about human behavior at all. So I encourage people to like build these games that are still the same in terms of like simulating emotions and behaviors of humans, but also have the element of blockchain of which there could be an economy that exists inside of your game and that there's value for the users when they play your game. So as a company, we've raised 27.85 million USD from investors like Venrock and Andreessen Horowitz, Union Square, Samsung Next, Google Ventures or GV. And so for us, we've raised a large amount of capital because there's two focuses of the company. One of the biggest focus is forming a studio. So the studio is to focus, I think, like maybe 50% of the time on CryptoKitties right now, to continue to build the IP and make CryptoKitties the mascot for blockchain technologies, and also grow the user base. The other 50% right now is that we're working with like Hollywood studios, celebrities, sports leagues, esports teams, gaming companies, and AAA brands to build new blockchain games or blockchain experiences. So that's kind of one half of the company is forming the studio. The other half of the company is focusing on building tools and technology and research and development. Since this space is very early on, we've had the chance to get a lot of data and understanding where we're actually losing potential players. And so we have been testing small improvements or tools inside of CryptoKitties to make the user experience much more smoother. And so some of these tools, we want to combine it together and launch it on top of CryptoKitties. But I think that these tools will be useful for other blockchain games as well. I'm hearing more STO. To be honest, we're in Canada and I haven't heard much about STOs. Yeah. The last time I heard about security tokens was when the ICO boom, like in 2017 and early 2018, was when like SEC was saying like, hey, is this utility or is this security? And my impression is that security tokens are going to be heavily regulated because it's basically like buying stocks of a company or equity or tokenizing the equity. And so the last I kind of heard was like, well, like I don't really understand why people would want to sell security tokens. But since I've been back here, I've been hearing it quite a lot of STO, I'm going to do an STO or I'm going to do an STO. And so I've been kind of asking people about what exactly are you doing with an STO. And I think there are a few platforms that exist right now that helps people with KYC, AML in order to do STOs. From Dapper Labs or CryptoKitties perspective, we are not planning to do an STO. So this is very interesting. When we first started CryptoKitties, the founding team was not allowed to have CryptoKitties because we worked pretty closely with the issuing of the genetics of the cats. So in order to prevent any form of like insider trading or problems internally, the founding team didn't play CryptoKitties. Yeah, and we had to hire people from our communities to be our community managers. So they played the game and we hired them. And so they could continue and they had no exposure to the actual genetics, etc. Up until recently, about a month or 2 months ago, we've released publicly on Medium and on our community that we could play CryptoKitties now. Some of the changes that we've made is basically keeping the genetics team isolated from the rest of the company. They are very kind of sitting really far away, and we've implemented security measures of which they legally and also as an employee cannot expose the information, and if they do, there will be consequences. So what that means is that I'm pretty far away from that now. Like, I don't deal with the genetics anymore. I mostly focus on partnerships and growth. So yes, I do have CryptoKitties and I do play. Yeah. I have different accounts. Some of them have a few hundred. And I have another account that I'm working on. Is I want to design really cool looking cats. Interestingly enough, we had a CryptoKitties meetup here in Seoul. There was, I think, about 120 or 30 people who showed up. That's very good because I was told before I set up the meetup that there may not be a lot of people who would show up because the market is not doing so well, and a lot of the investors or people who are interested in the blockchain technologies, they're not extremely happy, so they may not show up to the meetup. But I was very surprised that a lot of people showed up to the meetup, and I had the chance to meet a lot of people in the community here. I've been here less than a week and I've had many conversations. And I think it's a very interesting country with crypto kind of being a really big challenge, but also a big advantage for Korea. I also found 3 or 4 other players of CryptoKitties, and they have a Kakao group. So they added me to this Kakao group. There's about 40 people in this group. And this is a CryptoKitties Kakao group where people play the game. So I think it's really good because yesterday we had coffee together and I talked about, what can CryptoKitties help with the Korean community? Can we help provide support and resources? And are we able to kind of extend CryptoKitties brand more into Korea? So I think for us, that's a big focus. Is I want to incentivize, I want to grow a really nice community here that's focused on learning and education and blockchain games in general. On the second half, I think that a lot of companies here in Korea, especially the large companies like Naver, Kakao, Nexon, NeoWiz, etc., they're all working on their own blockchain projects, right? And a lot of it, I think a lot of these projects are consortium or very limited nodes, right? Because they want to provide the best user experience. I would say that if they are successful, and I think they will be successful, a lot of the Korean public will be exposed to blockchain games and digital assets on their existing blockchains, right? One important thing, especially with the media outlets like D.STREET and any other outlet that exists here in Korea for blockchain media, should be kind of having these discussions of the longevity of the assets that you issue, right? When I said, like, when we issue out an asset, we want it to last for a very long time. Now, yes, these companies will probably last for many years, but I don't think that companies could last 100 years or 500 years. It's very, very, very rare. And so we want to make sure that these assets have a way to exist for a long time. Now, will that be Ethereum? I don't know. But right now, at least Ethereum is thinking a lot longer term about what does it mean for users to kind of hold these things, hold these digital assets. So I think what is needed is, having more projects that believe in the decentralized nature, but also believe in providing a good, fun experience for users, and having these projects come here to Korea and do what I'm doing here, speaking with you, and kind of having you write and create content about what does it mean to build something on the blockchain.